In November of 1807, Queen Maria I of Portugal received a message on Instagram that was strange but intriguing. It was an invitation. Given the fact that Napoleon was about to invade her nation, she decided to take a chance and transferred her entire court, including almost 10,000 people, to Brazil. This event had profound social and geopolitical implications. As a result, of course, racism does not exist in Portugal. And additionally, Duolingo rightfully uses the Brazilian flag to represent the Portuguese language. I know this because my cousin posted about it on Facebook. But its biggest implication, no doubt, was the validation of what is clearly the most fun and effective way to play 4X and grand strategy games. The technical term for this is metropolitan reversal, but I like to call it moving your empire halfway across the map. I know that we all like to play for the memes and we're special snowflakes who like doing suboptimal playthroughs for fun, but unironically, in so many different games, this is such an effective strategy that it must be far beyond coincidence. Metropolitan reversal is the metropolitan meta, and I'm going to explain exactly why. First, though, let's talk about why this is even possible to begin with. Clearly, nomads, colonialism, and overseas conquest are a big inspiration and historical reality in the time periods that a lot of these strategy games cover. But it goes beyond that. It's present in many strategy games that aren't historical. One of my favorite play patterns that you find in some games is the base race. This is a situation where two factions threaten each other's core territory at the same time. Often one side chickens out and comes back home to defend, but otherwise it ends up in a ridiculous game state where the two sides have effectively swapped home bases. In a game like Heroes of Might and Magic, this is neat, but it doesn't change much about how the game actually plays out. Conquest is rewarded with the ability to make use of your enemy's cities. But in terms of ridiculous play patterns, where this really shines is in StarCraft. You can't just start using the enemy's command center. Both players end up with their bases destroyed, running on the fumes of whatever buildings they managed to float off, overlords that made an escape at a glacial pace, and of course, proxy pylons with a Stargate underneath. That kind of mobility is what enables this to happen. If you are allowed to move your units to the other side of the map and draw resources from the other side of the map, players aren't just going to stay in one place. It's not a mystery why we move our empires around. The question is, why is it always so consistently overpowered? A simple place to start would be with the differences between regions on the map. Whether the map is random or pre-designed, some parts are just going to be inherently better than the others. As the Terrans in StarCraft 2, you can lift off your command center and take it to a gold base for increased mineral yields. Great projects in U4 can be another good example of this. Sometimes you can get empire-wide effects that will define your run if you can conquer them, but often it's just that you're going to get better land. And this was reflected throughout history. The Mongols started a dynasty in China. In Age of Empires 4, the Mongols can pack up their buildings and move them across the map, like they were the Terrans in StarCraft 2. Egypt was the breadbasket for the Roman Empire and gave them access to Red Sea trade with the East. Possession of this territory was a boon to their nation, and in fact, arguably the Ptolemid dynasty itself was a case of metropolitan reversal, with a Greek ruling class flourishing in Egypt despite not having any control over mainland Greece. So it's only fitting that conquering Egypt is so lucrative in Rome Total War. This is true for Greece or Rome itself, but really any faction. Carthage? Sure. Pontus? Why not? Scythia? You're damn right. You can even get all the way to Egypt as the British if you're brave enough. The boost in public order from the pyramids helps with this, and you can even stop by Crete to pick up some cool mercenaries. Some places on the map are just very rewarding to take, and the worse your start location, the stronger your incentive is to just blitz it. This is doubly true when you account for difficulty. For one, if you're trying to challenge yourself, you will likely be starting in a bad location. Your biggest rivals that you need to shut down spawn in good locations. It makes sense then that you'd want to take their cities instead of the literal garbage that is in your backyard. But additionally, on high levels, the AI will build a lot of infrastructure. Capturing a single powerful wonder like the pyramids or Great Library in Civ 3 can turbocharge your game, and in Civ 4 you get to keep settled great people, which can be a really significant boost. But even just regular buildings, tile improvements, and population, these mean a lot. In Heroes of Might and Magic, this factor is a godsend. The AI will construct buildings that generate a ton of income, high-level mage guilds, and dwellings for high-level monsters. You get to take them, and then, if they want, they can go dumpster diving and take whatever you've left behind in your own capital. The game of Heroes 2 on screen right now was pretty early. I'm only an hour and a half in, but this is the highest difficulty. So when I take the enemy's home city, I see that they have an upgraded cloud castle with 14 titans waiting to be recruited. So forget whatever I was power stacking. This is my new game plan, and as a result, this is my new home base. This strategy can also be used to escape difficult starts where you're crowded between powerful empires. This is pretty much what happened with the Phoenicians in real life. Instead of putting up with all the bullshit of powerful empires like the Hittites, Mitanni, Egypt, and Assyria, they founded colonies far away in North Africa, which were able to grow into their own empire that dominated the Western Mediterranean. And I'm pretty confident that from there, nothing bad ever happened to them. This is the case when I'm playing colonization. Often the East Coast ends up very crowded, near all the other European civs, along with the indigenous ones. I typically like to plant the West Coast instead. You lose some tempo, but you have more room to breathe, and you can just focus on your own game. Finally, sometimes just the act of moving itself is strong. You can get access to crusading and jihad troops for cheap in Medieval Total War 2. These will go across the map, but typically you are expanding your empire, not moving it. But with hordes in Rome Total War Barbarian Invasion, on the other hand, you are just moving your entire faction, and you get to access a big stack of units. This is just a strong way to play the game, regardless of your destination. Hilariously, another game that falls into this category is chess. Aside from pawn promotions, there's no inherent mechanical advantage to having your pieces on the far side of the board, but it can be really strong to do it anyway. We joke about the bong cloud, but if your game has reached a dire state, sometimes walking your king at the enemy is your best bet. The king is vulnerable, but its options for movement make it actually quite a powerful piece. You can just walk at the enemy and take their bishops. Especially if you're in a time crunch, attacking with a piece that chess.com mechanically forbids you from blundering can be very strong. But these factors are, frankly, child's play relative to the deeper exploits that you can pull off through metropolitan reversal. Experienced players know that grand strategy games can be absolutely broken in two if you can just combine or stack up the right modifiers. Formables are a great way of doing that, offering unique opportunities like cranking your discipline up to the moon in EU4, but if you want the ultimate experience of moving your empire halfway across the map, no game can match Crusader Kings 3. This is a game that wears its love of tomfoolery and vagabondism on its sleeves. You're able to take your main character on pilgrimages and crusades, but you're no longer even required to play as a landed noble. You can just play as a random adventurer. With no homeland, you have no restrictions. You are free to travel across the world and create your empire wherever you want it to be. The ultimate enabler here is Jarl Heistein. You're a Viking raider who spawns 4,500 event troops and has the ability to just go wherever he wants. Resolve the Iberian struggles? Sure. Raid the Mediterranean? Why not? Become Pharaoh of Egypt? We talked about that one already, it's just obligatory. Head to Asia to become ruler of Korea? You're damn right. But CK3 has all kinds of cool cultures with different powers and modifiers that you can combine in exploitable ways. Which leads us to the protagonist of today's video. He was born in the Champa Kingdom of Southeast Asia, but all of his life, he's known that he's different. Born with flaming red hair and the heart of a vagabond, he knew he was destined for life in a faraway land, to find his people. We need to give his name just a little yes. And so he travels, visiting universities, enforcing contracts, and performing in plays. On the way there, he even got married and then later became friends with his wife. He spent 20 years on the road before finally reaching the British Isles and preparing to stake his claim. And he has one ace up his sleeve. Because the Champa culture is Sinicized. We caught them at a very Chinese time in their nation's history. They possess the Champa rice Silk Road innovation, and that is something that our hero brings with him on his journey to Europe. That's right, he doesn't celebrate St. Patty's Day, he celebrates Rice Paddy's Day. What benefit does Champa Rice give? Well, it turbocharges your development on wetland tiles. Normally, there aren't too many of these. On the map, they're in this light blue color, but one region has the highest density of wetlands in the world: Ireland. So, by going on this ridiculous journey, we are able to gain a substantial advantage. Grand strategy games are really complex, and often different bonuses have incredible synergy. Sometimes, you've got a puzzle piece with a particular shape, and the perfect slot for it is on the other side of the map. You just have to be brave enough to go for it. Osuryaviman over here certainly was. There's actually a final category of reasons that moving your empire can be so strong, and this is because you might be able to break the basic rules of the game. An example of this is in the Age of Discovery scenario for Civilization 3. This is colonialism themed. The idea is you play as a European power and plant cities in the New World. There, special resources will let you produce treasure that you can take back to Europe. If you avoid piracy, you get victory points and gold. It's the exploration age from Civ 7, except it's fun. There's a catch, though. To make this work, the game is programmed such that you cash in the treasure when it's returned to your capital. If you were to say, abandon your capital city and teleport your palace to the New World, suddenly you'd be at a massive advantage. You can cash in your treasure immediately, you don't need to mess around with boats, and you can use the gold immediately to continue your snowball. I saw a guy beat the scenario on Cid difficulty this way while spending the entire game in anarchy. That's one hell of a metropolitan reversal. Okay, that's everything for today. I work 2/3 of a job. I've stumbled into having a modestly successful YouTube channel. I'm figuring things out and working to make better videos. I'm very grateful to be in this position. If you like my stuff, subscribe to the channel. If you're subscribed, check out these playlists. I've got this one, Best and Worst Across the Civilization franchise. These are some good videos. And I have a big playlist of video essays if you want something to leave on in the background while you're knitting. Cheers, everybody. Take care.